Everyone has the same 5 core areas of their life that ultimately determine how happy they'll be. Unfortunately, most of us have developed failure habits in each, and it's Will Moore's mission to help replace those with success habits to maximize momentum. After exiting his business for a combined 9-figure sum, Will learned it's not just about becoming an entrepreneur of your career, but an entrepreneur of the most important business you'll ever run, your life. And to crush it in your life requires firing on all cylinders in your 5 cores by continually taking action, building habits, and maintaining balance in each. Hello, and welcome to the 5 Core Life podcast with Will Moore, founder of More Momentum. If you're not already, please make sure to follow and subscribe to the 5 Core Life podcast so that you get notified when new episodes air every week. On today's episode of the 5 Core Life, host Will Moore sits down with Luke Tyburski, extreme athlete who has 2 documentaries on Amazon Prime. Luke discusses how he went from a football injury, soccer for those of us in America, that had him depressed and contemplating suicide to one of the world's most renowned extreme athletes. He looks at the glass not as half full or empty, but grateful to have it to begin with, and what he can do with the life that he's been given. Luke also shares the habits he's developed, he's most proud of, catching himself when he sees life getting out of control, taking breaths, stopping and resting, and how he uses habits and gratitude to propel him through life. Are you ready to fire on all cylinders? If so, let's go.
Hey man, how are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you, mate?
Oh, I love that accent, bro. I see why the women love it. I see it. I'm not in that realm, but I get it. It's a very cool accent. So where are you living right now? Where are you currently?
I'm currently in London, but I did originate from Australia.
From Australia. Yep.
Yeah.
Put another shrimp on the bottom. Dumb and Dumber. Love that movie. Okay, so dude, I'm excited. I'm really excited to have you on here. Thanks for coming on. You've got a really cool story. I was about to introduce you, but since you're here, why don't you kind of give people a little backdrop and tell people who you are, how you got here, and what you're doing.
Yeah, right. So there's a long version and a short version. I'll give you the short version.
Well, a couple minutes is fine. I'm sure it can go on, but yeah.
Yeah. So I originally grew up in Australia in a small country town, and I always like to sort of say that over the years I've gotten older, I've realized that I grew up in what I almost seem as like the perfect family, right? I had the perfect family growing up. My mum and dad, working class family. We never went without anything, but it wasn't like we could have whatever we wanted. But what I mean by the perfect family life growing up, and this will give context for further conversation that we have later today, is I had 2 loving parents, I have a loving sister, and I grew up with loads of aunts and uncles who lived in my small country town as well, and a loving grandmother. So it was like everyone was there and having good fun together.
Right.
And the things that my parents really taught me that set me up for the rest of my life was to be curious and to always hold working hard quite, as a high standing. So always be curious. And if you want to achieve something, you have to put in the work yourself. So that was sort of the foundations. But I had this love for playing soccer. And that's all I ever wanted to do as a kid. My uncle played soccer. My dad played rugby. So he was a bit like, want to play rugby this year? And I'm like, no, playing soccer. And ever since I was a little kid, my dream was to play professional soccer all around the world. That was the plan. And at the age of 16, I started playing at some elite level. And then I ended up actually playing at the highest level in Australia. And after, when I was about 20, I decided to leave the country. I came over to the US, and I lived in the US for about four or so years. And then I came over to Europe. I played in the UK. I played in Belgium in the lower league. So it wasn't like I was playing in the Premiership or anything like that. I was making enough money just to get by and to live this dream that I had as a kid. And then I came back to the UK from Belgium, and I started to have all these injuries. And I couldn't get on top of them. And I was really struggling with my mental health. Started to have depression, but I didn't realize it was depression. I just thought I was sad because I wasn't playing soccer. I was always injured, right? And here I am, like this 25, 26, 27-year-old guy who has lived all around the world, has friends all around the world, and been living his dream. Like, why would I be depressed? I'm just a bit flat. So then what happened over the next 3 years is I kept getting injured. I kept breaking down. My mental health was getting worse and worse and worse. And I had that whole feeling of being ashamed and not talking about it to anyone. And then I decided to retire because I couldn't deal with these injuries anymore. And for some crazy reason, I thought, what I'm going to do next in my life, because there's massive big void. I'm 28. What am I going to do? I signed up to what some say is the toughest foot race on earth. And it's called the Marathon des Sables, which is 6 marathons in 7 days through the Sahara Desert. That was an escape from life. That was running away from what I was dealing with. And over the next 5 years, I became addicted to endurance sports. I look at it as a form of self-harm, and I went on this crazy rampage of 5 years of doing these crazy big challenges until one of them literally stopped me in my tracks, and I had to stop and reflect and really think about how I want to live my life, why I'm here, and what values do I have. And in this period of time, my mental health was pretty bad. During those 5 years of being addicted to endurance sports, I was battling binge eating, insomnia, stood on tops of bridges in 2 occasions, not wanting to live anymore. And over this period of 18 months where I really reflected to understand who I was and how I want to live, I realized that there were certain things in my life that I hold of a higher esteem than other things. And now, over the last sort of 4 or 5 years, I've really been living that way and also teaching others what life has taught me. And so that's sort of my story. And what I do now is I conduct workshops, I do talks on mindset. And my definition of mindset is how you view, think, and act on a daily basis. And I work with corporate clients, athletes, all the rest of it, and teaching people what life has taught me and how to get out of their own way. So that's the short version.
Well, that was great. So thank you for sharing that. I'm taking notes as we're going. Just kind of pick on, as you're talking, I'm getting excited on the things I want to ask you and just pick some certain things out. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how many people I have on this show, and I've said it before, and I'm saying now, where the people that are able to get to that level where you are, where you've kind of had this call it a breakthrough, call it what you want, where it's like, okay, I get it now. Like, okay, that was where I was. That's where my mindset was. That's what I was all about. And then something happened, and it's usually this cataclysmic, it's either it kind of adds up to a really bad situation, or it's one event, but it gets to that kind of rock bottom where you're contemplating suicide. I got there, you got there, and it's, I feel like we're fortunate in a way. I don't know how you look at it, but I'm guessing that you probably do too as well, that we were able to get to that stage where we were so low that it was like we had no choice. It was either call it a day and throw in the towel or go up, right? And that fight or flight kicked in me, and it sounds like in you as well. And I was like, nope, we're doing this. And it forced you to put in the work, hold yourself accountable, and to actually get to that level of where you are now. And I don't know if you would agree, but I don't know if I would have ever gotten there had I not gotten to that rock bottom. Like, I might have just been kind of, I call it hovering in between your best self and rock bottom your whole life. And to me, that's like the worst possible place you can be, because there's not that catalyst to kind of get you going, to build that momentum. Yet so many people fall prey to that. Yeah,
to a degree, I definitely, I think that's where a lot of people live in between, because I don't think you need to hit rock bottom to be able to penetrate your ceiling of potential.
For sure.
I think you need to have a level of curiosity in how you live your life. One of the frames that I remind myself on a daily basis is, what if I can? And I say this all the time, is what if I can? Not as a question, but as a statement. So they're two very different things. What if I can is, as a question, is passive, and there's a bit of uncertainty. And yes, there is curiosity, which I think is a fantastic place to start. But if you can live your life or even if you can look at life or a challenge that's been put in front of you with what if I can as a statement, well, that's progressive, that's strong, and that sets an intention. So I would love to see people live their life with a little bit more curiosity and turning that what if I can from a question into a statement so it's progressive and strong and there's an intention there. So I feel like we don't, as a human race, we don't have to hit that rock bottom to spring back up. But I think a key element is to live life with curiosity.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I wasn't implying you have to have that. I guess it inspired us to go out and help those in-betweeners, right? Those that aren't going to hit that rock bottom and say, look, guys, like, let's go, because you do not want to just, you don't want to get through the end of your life and have all those regrets and like, I could have been this, I should have done this, I should have. And clearly you're somebody that's kind of taking life by the horns, and you're making the most of it. And when you see that and you start to experience that, it's like your eyes are open. You just want to share it with everybody, don't you? You just want everybody to have that.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I talk about quite often as well, is all I do is share with others what life has taught me to try and help them get out of their own way. Like, I don't have all the answers. I don't have all the lessons, but I have my experiences, and I've been able to unpick how I do what I do. So here's an example of what I'm talking about. Is I've been a professional speaker for must be like six or odd years now. And when I first started to speak, and I would, talking about running across the Sahara Desert, running down Mt Everest in the world's highest ultra marathon, cycling for 260 miles nonstop on a bike, and all these things, doing a 2,000 kilometer triathlon in 12 days from Morocco to Monaco, like mind-blowing distances and physical feats. And I would get on stage, and people would ask me, how do you keep pushing yourself when you've got blisters on all your toes, when you're falling asleep on your bike, when you've torn a muscle and you still got, 50 miles to run? And I would give off-the-cuff answers, sort of like, you just focus in the moment and putting one foot in front of the other. And yes, that's what I did. But I realized when I kept being asked this question, it's like, well, but how do I do that? How do I stay in the present moment? How do I literally keep putting one foot in front of in the other? And I think that's very different, to be able to unpick the processes, the thoughts, the conversations you have with yourself, and if there are any sort of step-by-step principles that you use. And I've been really, I've been able to unpick how I do what I do on a physical level. So then that's what I go and share with others. It's just what has worked for me, the processes, the principles, the conversations, the language that I've used to help me overcome obstacles, adapt to setbacks, and see opportunities that I never saw before, to try and help others get out of their own way to help themselves.
That's right. And that's another common theme that I see with people such as yourself that have, I call them the 5%ers versus the 95%ers. So we'll just call it 5%er, who's kind of seen something and doing something that most people aren't, is, they figure out their own system. And so it's like, you read different books, you're inspired by other people, you hear somebody speak, and you're like, you take little nuggets. I mean, that's what I did anyways. And it sounds like you created your own system, right? And now you're out there saying, hey, this worked. I want to share it with you. It's not rocket science. And it's all, but at the end of the day, it's all these systems we're developing. They're all based on the same principles, right? Principles, there's universal principles that have been around since the beginning of time. They're going to be around, until we destroy ourselves. And you can't cheat the system. You can't, buy it for $9.99. You got to put in the work. You got to put in the effort. You got to hold yourself accountable. You have to have a certain mindset, and you just got to have that. I'm going to push through no matter what. And in terms of mindset, which you focus on, I love your definition. I think you said you call it how you think and act on a daily basis. I get it into
view, think. Yeah.
Call coming in. Just tell me again how you view,
think, and act on a daily basis. So how you view the world outside of you, and then how that makes you think. And then when you think, we know science has proved that thoughts dictate actions. So how you view it, how you think it, and then how you do it.
Love it. Yeah. So, and then to me, right. And looking at that, it's like, okay, how you're going to view, you're going to think, you're going to act. It's all based on, to me, there's two main types. And I don't know if you see it this way, but there's your victim and then there's your owner. I think I heard you use the word victim earlier. I call it your fixed victim and your growth owner. Right. And you've got your fixed victim is that lower self, that low hanging fruit brain that's going, oh, life's hard. There's not really much I can do about it anyways. Maybe I'll hit the lottery one day. I hope that, I just want to kind of get through and it's just this like poor me type mentality versus the growth owner is like, I've got everything within me to kick butt, take names. I can do anything that I want. It's only a matter of time, setting my goal, and obstacles are temporary roadblocks on my way to getting there. Right. And that really, to me, so I have these 5 cores I talk about, and you have, like I said, we've all have our systems. And to me, that mindset, it's that's the most important. It's that main core. Like if you don't get your mindset working for you, you can't build your momentum in the other areas of your life, your relationships, your physical health, your emotional health.
Well, that's the thing. Like, you've got to take care of yourself first, right? We all know that we get taught that when we fly on planes, and you can't help someone else to the best of your ability if you don't take care of yourself, because over time you're just going to degrade yourself as a person. And where it starts with taking care of yourself is between your 2 ears, right? And because we know that, as I said it before, like thoughts dictate actions. That's like, okay, it's not how I act that's going to be the catalyst, because I don't just act. There's something that goes on between my mind. So for me, it's how you think, but it's also how you think in relation to your external world. As you said, like, are you a victim or are you a growth individual, who's looking for growth? And I think if you're constantly viewing the world in a way that everyone else is better, everyone else has got more than me, why not me, or poor me, then you're disabling yourself. You're giving everyone else like the power over your own life, rather than taking control and saying, okay, so right now where I am in my life, these are the tools I have, and whatever they be, they can be their metaphors for whatever in life. These are the tools that I have. How can I do the best today, or even in this moment, with the tools that I have, to help me get to the next moment, to help me get to the next day in the progression to where I want to go into the future? Because the future is not guaranteed. All we can do is live in the moment, learn from the past, and aim for the future. So mindset 100% is where it starts, because if you want to take action, as I said, you can't just take action, you've got to think it. And a lot of the thoughts that we have are based on what we see in front of us.
Love that. That's exactly right. And right, it's funny, right. It's not just the thoughts. Do you remember the book, The Secret, and the movie? Did you ever? Right.
Yeah.
And I remember when that came out, and it was like, I was so inspired by it at the time. And obviously your mind is a huge part of it. And it took me a long time to sort of figure out that it's that action part that you can't ignore. No. Right? Because so many people, and the book, it's like, think positive thoughts, and just for those that haven't seen it or read it, is, thoughts become things, right? But it's like, no, thoughts don't become things. Actions lead to consequences, and your consequences either build positive or negative momentum, and then you get in what I call the success loop. And it's like, okay, you take an action and it builds a little bit of confidence. It starts to change your mindset. Then you're like, I want to take that action again. And then it starts over, and you just kind of get going and going. And then it's like, before you know it, you're building all this momentum and you're headed in the right direction. It wasn't because you were just thinking about it. You actually got off your butt and did it. And that's the difference between most people, right? A lot of people, it's fine and dandy to have a good positive mindset, but if you don't actually take the action, you won't learn. And I think a big part of that is people are afraid to fail, which again goes back to the victim mindset.
Yeah, exactly. And I mentioned it before, but I'll give a bit more context. Is the one thing that my parents always said to me, especially my mum, was, if you want to achieve something, you have to do it. You have to go and put the work in. And she said this one to me off the cuff once, and I really remembered it. And she said, Luke, just because you work hard doesn't mean you're going to be successful. And I'm like, Mom, what are you talking about? She said, just because you work hard doesn't mean you're going to be successful. But if you don't work hard, you definitely won't be successful. So if you're not willing to put yourself out there and do the work, then you're never going to be successful, because as you said, you can sit back on the couch and go think positive thoughts, have a positive mindset. You can even think in a growth mindset, right? We know that's a great way to think, rather than a closed mindset from some of the work that people like Carol Dweck has done. But the fact of the matter is, you've got to go out and do it. You've got to go out and do the work in it. And there's so many things online these days where it's like, these 5 hacks to be more productive. Bottom line, you want a hack? Get up every day and spend a period of time of your day doing the same thing over and over again. And over time, you will achieve something. That's the big hack, right?
That's the hack. That's the hack. And that's exactly right. And that's to me, we haven't even mentioned the word habits yet, I don't think, but to me, that's kind of what it all comes down to, right? Yeah. It's your routines and your habits. Habits don't care if they're good or bad, helping or hurting us. They're going to do their thing. And it's like, okay, what habit do you have when you wake up? Do you ingest a bunch of toxic, political news or killings or shootings or violence that's just putting you in this like negative, angry state? What are you putting into your body? What are you eating? Are you eating, pancakes and bacon? Or are you, for me, it's my protein shake I've been eating for the last 20 years, and it's got spinach and it's got, all these things, and then my vitamin and so on and so forth, then, do you have a mantra? Do you have something? Do you remind yourself what you're grateful for every day? Like, it's just as easy not to, but then once you start doing it, it's just as easy, because your mind goes on autopilot, right? Your mind's like, okay, we got this one. We're going to conserve energy. We've been doing this long enough. I know that this is automatic. And then all of a sudden you're doing these things, and they're helping you to become that bigger, better, faster version of yourself, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like a roadmap, right? If you create these habits and create the right environment, you set up your cues and all these things that we both know how you set habits that can stick. It's like a roadmap. It's like if you look at a map in a new town, you follow the best route to where you want to go to the other side of the town. And you get up every day and you follow that route, right, on the map. And you think, yeah. Over time, you don't need the map anymore. It just happens automatically. You know how to get from one side of the town to the other.
Right.
But if you don't have that map, then you're trying to navigate through these streets, getting distracted by shops and lights and other people, and you may never get to where you want to go because you don't have this roadmap. And that's how I view habits, as literally a way that you can create a map of from where you are to where you want to go. And when you do that consistently, then you can do it automatically because you've ingrained it into your daily life, and that is part of what you do.
Yeah, right. And it's like, so this ties into, I have this equation of life that basically says your belief system plus your repeated actions plus time equals who you will become, right? So it's like your belief system, your mindset, like how are you seeing the world? And then what are the actions you're taking based on that? And then time is going to do its thing. It's not going to happen right away, right? We live in this age where it's like, especially I feel bad for these Gen Zers. It's like they hit a button and they can get their food delivered. They can get their body transported anywhere they want. They can get anything at the tip of their fingers. And then they see these Instagrammers, celebrities at 18, 17 years old that are making millions. Like, oh, I can do that. It's like, no. The hard work, that whole thing that used to be, in my opinion, even though you look back 100 years and you feel, it's like people now feel sorry for those people. It's actually, when you look at the situation that they were faced with and the fact that they were forced to have to do a lot of these things themselves, right? Like back when we milking your own cow to get your milk for the table, like that's like not even like you hit a button now and your milk's here. And it's like that actually was building happiness, because what it was doing is it was creating this sort of sense of, I'm achieving something, I'm taking actions, they're having results, I'm doing it, and I'm doing the work. And that's, as human beings, we need that. Like it doesn't feel good to just sit on a beach and drink a pina colada. Everybody thinks, oh, if I just had enough money and I could just sit on a beach, trust me, I sold my business last year. I could be doing that right now. I already knew before I sold my business, but it was kind of neat to see like afterwards where I was like, yep, I knew it was true, and it is. And it's like, you got to constantly be working towards something. You got to have goals. You got to be, and that passive sort of, I don't know the word I'm looking for, just lazy, not lazy, but complacency is like the worst place that you could possibly be, in my opinion. And that's what kind of society, in a way, is sort of set up to help people be.
And I think alongside that is gratitude. Right? We hear this all the time, is having gratitude, being thankful for what you have and who you have in your life. And it's really easy to say. Like, don't get me wrong. It is really simple to say when people say, oh yeah, I've got gratitude for this and gratitude for that. But practicing it is a completely different ball game. And the way I love sharing this story with people is the way I look at gratitude is like this. If you see a glass of water, right, and the glass is sort of the level of the water is in the middle, right? So people will say, well, is the glass half full or half empty? And the old saying is, optimists will see it half full, or optimists will see it as half empty. But when I see a glass like that, I don't see whether it's half full or half empty, because if you do that, you're focusing on the contents. You're focusing on the water, not the powerful thing that's the actual glass. It's holding the water there, right? And if you think of that analogy as a glass is really strong, right? Glass is super strong, but also it is fragile. So you've got to take care of it. You can't throw it around the walls. And then you can put freezing cold water in glass. You put ice cubes in glass and it doesn't break. But then over time, you let it warm up. You can put boiling water in glass and it doesn't break. So it's resilient. It's amazing, right? But then people get caught up with being optimistic or pessimistic and focusing on the contents of this glass. This is like an analogy for life, right? But it comes back to gratitude. And where we're going wrong is we're focusing on what we do have and what we don't have, rather than being thankful for what we actually have in that glass. Because it is strong, it is powerful, it is resilient. And bottom line, if you're focusing on the contents of the glass, whether it's half full or half empty, what happens when we take the glass away? You're left with a puddle on the floor, right?
Right.
So it's being thankful and having gratitude for the things that you have and their capabilities to fill up or empty. Not for the fact that whether I have this or whether I don't have this. It's being thankful for what you have and the capabilities of these things that you have in your life.
I love that. I just wrote that down. I'd never heard it that way. That's neat. That's a really great way to look at it. You're right. Right. Being present, being grateful for what you have, not focus. It's so hard. Again, so everything we're talking about, something I feel like gets lost in the shuffle sometimes is like, people feel bad. Like, why am I having these thoughts, or what? All these things we're talking about, like that, looking at that glass is half empty. Like, that's actually innate in us. Like, we innately look at the glass as half empty. It's only by training our minds that we start to look at it as half full, or, as you say, even better, being grateful for the glass to begin with. And, it's just like a muscle. Like, your brain is a muscle, and you can't expect to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger by just eating cheesecake and popcorn all day. And same way, like, you've got to do the work to retrain your brain, just like you did at a certain point, and like I did. And, people just, that's just, if I could just like put a sign on my forehead, it's just say, it would be, you got to do the work. And you're not going to get it for $9.99 from some guy that just spammed you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%. And it's, and people say to me, oh, you're a really positive person. You must be always super positive. And I'm like, I'm not, because, sometimes life sucks. I'm human. And sometimes I will look at things in a negative way, or I look at things as half empty. But where I feel like my growth has been in life is I will catch myself pretty quickly when I do that. It won't last hours. It won't last days. Okay, it might last an hour occasionally, but I will catch myself to say, hey, I'm focusing on things that I can't control. I'm being negative about stuff that I don't need to be negative about. All right, let's flip this around. So for me, if I'm looking at things and being negative, I don't try and then just say, right, I need to be 100% positive, because life's not black and white. And I think it's really difficult for some people to go from being in a negative headspace to then someone say to them, just be positive, because positive makes you feel good and it's great. It's really hard to flick that switch. So then I say, can you be less negative? And what I mean by that is, if you ask yourself these 3 questions, being less negative for me, and this can happen in any scenario in life, is, okay, what happened? What happened to make you be in a negative state? So asking yourself, what happened? All right? And then, why did it happen? To understand the process or the mechanisms that made that thing that happened that make you feel negative. And then now, so you've got why, what, why, and where do I need to put my focus and attention on now to move past this? So those 3 questions, they're not super positive thoughts. They're not like motivational speakers getting on stage pumping music and fireworks. They're less negative. They're almost neutral. So when you're feeling negative, or when you have these negative thoughts or something, say negative situation, scenario, outcome happens in front of you, and if I catch myself being negative, I stop and I go, okay, I ask myself those 3 questions. What, why, and where, that are less negative, to help me get to a positive frame of mind.
So, yeah, I mean, I love that you said that, because, you know, it's, like I said, it's innate in us to see the glass sometimes as half empty. But the key is not that you're not going to fall on your face and stumble and fail, but it's how you handle it when it happens, and not getting sucked into that world to where it's everything and it takes over, and then it causes you to be complacent and more fearful and take less action. But to just, and it's okay to own it sometimes, like, right, so a lot of people will try to say, oh, here comes this negative thought. And it's like, yeah, I mean, there's thought stopping techniques and there's things you can do. But like, if you have a tragedy or something bad, you know, something like, just, that's okay. Just feel sad, like you said, an hour or two, you know, but the key is to sort of, after you've kind of had that moment, to then, and this is the difference between a fixed victim and a growth owner, is to sort of say, okay, where are we going now? How can is there anything I can gain from this? Did I learn anything from this? How can I use it to improve me? And let's go. Let's keep moving, because the world is still great. This didn't end the world. It's not the end of the galaxy.
No, exactly. And I do that same thing if I've got negative reviews. So I've got 2 documentaries on Amazon Prime. I've got a book that's on Amazon and Audible and all the rest of it, and even just on social media. And if I get a negative comment or anything like that, like I will stop and say, okay, they don't know me personally, so I'm not going to take it personally, right? And then I say to myself, is there any truth to what they're saying? So can I learn from the situation of it? I'm just using this as an example, a negative review. Like, can I learn from that? Did I actually overlook something, or did I not deliver in the best way that I could? And then I just also look at it from, okay, that person, that situation, what happened, look at it from their side. Look at it from their perspective. Where are they coming from? And this is how negativity as a whole, and we're flipping this from having a negative experience to having negativity put upon us, is that's how I process when there has been negativity pushed into my life in front of me. I don't just swat it out of the way and do that. It's like, okay, well, can I learn from it? Okay, what can I learn from it? And can I see it from their point of view? And then that's another element of how I can grow from negativity that's been put in front of me.
I love that, man. And that's it. That, what you just said, like, everybody listening, like, guys, that's it. Like, you're gonna fail, you're gonna fall on your butt, you're gonna have moments where you question yourself, your confidence. Like, there is no, if somebody tells you that they've reached a state where they have, you know, they never have doubts about themselves, like, run in the other direction, you know, that life is great. That's part of life, right? And that's not the goal to get there. The goal is to get to a place where your mind knows how to handle those bad things, so that it not only do you get through it a lot more quickly and easily, but it actually helps build you into a better human being.
I agree, 100%, Will. That's a great way to put it.
That's it. And with that said, we'll wrap up here. This has been amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I know you had 2 documentaries. I want you to tell people now, so where we can find you, where they can see your documentaries, get your book. Let us know a little bit about that.
Yeah, so my 2 documentaries are on Amazon Prime. One's on my 2,000 kilometer in 12-day swim, cycle and run from Morocco to Monaco, where I swam between Europe and Africa, cycled the entire southeast coast of Spain, and then ran from the Spanish-French border, all in 12 days. It sounds as tiring as it was. It was brutal. The documentary's won a few awards, and it's a real eye-opener of how our mind is stronger than our body. You know, you hear these people talking about when your mind wants to quit, your body's still got 40%, 30% to go. I show that in the documentary that your mind is so much tougher than your body, and my body basically shut down and said, dude, I'm done. But my mind's like, no, come on, let's keep going. So it's a really cool insight into how strong our mind can be. And the other one's the 500.
What's that one called? I'm sorry, I'm writing this down.
Sorry, that's called the Ultimate Triathlon.
Yep.
Yeah, and I've got a lot of people who have messaged me and they've said, oh, I love the documentary. It's really cool. I'm a triathlete myself, and my wife or my husband is not an athlete, but they watched it and they loved it. So even if you don't like sports or triathlon, you'll get something out of it. And the second documentary is called The 500 Man, and this is completely different. Yes, it's about a 500 kilometer triathlon, but I don't want to be give any spoilers away, but I failed. Right, I failed at it, and what I learned from this adventure just has helped me in so many things in life. So it's a really cool learning tool on
what we just talked about.
On failure, exactly.
Love that. Yeah. You did a whole documentary. I love that, because that's what I'm trying to tell people. Like, fail, but fail forward. Like, that's okay. Like, embrace that. But then what did you learn? I love that. I'm going to watch these. And
then my book is Chasing Extreme. It's an autobiography about my journey, as I mentioned at the start, about playing soccer and traveling around the world and my mental health. And I was very open and honest in this book. And I like to tell people, I don't have any skeletons in my closet, because my closet is wide open. I revealed everything in my book, and stuff that my parents and my now wife didn't even know at the time. So the first time I gave them a draft, I was like, you're going to learn stuff about this and it's going to make you feel uncomfortable. And they were like, what do you mean? I said, just read it. So I talked about all the stuff that I was going through with my mental health, and then also through my adventures all around the world. But then the final 2 chapters is what I've learned from that period of my life, and then how I want to live my life forward. So that's on Amazon. And if you like listening to books, Chasing Extreme is also on Audible. And I did something a little bit different with this. I read it myself, but at the end of every chapter, I gave further insights into some of the adventures or some of the things that I did in the chapter. But then also, because time had passed by the time when I finished writing the book to having it published and then doing the audio book.
Updates.
Yeah, updates, but then also things that I had learned about myself at that period of time. So we're talking about when I was binge eating in 2000 and when it's worth 2013, 2014, 2015. Well, I read the book in 2018. So I had, 4 years to think about how that made me feel and what I was thinking. And there's only so many words you can write in a book. So that I added more thoughts, more feelings, more reflections at the end of each chapter. So there's 3 hours
awesome.
worth of bonus material.
I didn't even know you could do that in your audiobook. That's good to know. That's really cool. So that's the way to go.
I just said, this is my book, and I'm doing what I want.
I love it.
If you want to come and find me, my coaching and my speaking stuff is all at luketyburski.com, and also I'm at Luke Tyburski on social media. Come and say hello and tell me what you're up to, and we can have a chat.
Right on, man. Thank you for sharing that. And last question that I always end with my guests on. Out of all the habits in the world, what would you say is the habit that you have mastered that has allowed you to propel to where you are now in the biggest way?
I don't think I've mastered any habit. The habit I do the best currently on this day, what day is it? The 18th of November. The habit that I do the best today is acknowledging when, for sure, acknowledging when life is starting to get a little bit out of control, whether that's physically, mentally, emotionally, professionally. I can catch myself pretty quick and stop. So that habit for me stopping is taking 10 breaths, doing some meditation for, literally could be a minute or 2 minutes, set a timer on my phone, and just to stop, to create a bit of space in my life, to catch a breath, figuratively and literally. So right now in my life, I haven't mastered any habits, but that's the best habit that I'm very good at right now.
I like that. Humble man. Right. Well, that's I'm with you on that. Breathing is something that it took me a lot of years to sort of buy into. I was just like, what, breathing? And,
Yes.
it's unbelievable what just stopping and taking some breaths can do, and just kind of saying everything's going to be okay, looking at the 10,000-foot view versus just getting caught up in that moment, right, that you're struggling with, or you're dwelling on or frustrated with. And then you kind of just go, everything's actually just fine. This isn't going to kill me. This isn't really going to affect anything. And then, like we said earlier, how can I actually learn to grow from this thing? And then that's when you're firing on all cylinders. It's like, oh, wow, not only did I catch myself here, but now I'm actually using it to grow. So Luke, you're the man. Thank you so much for being part of the show and joining us. This was really, really fun. We'll cut up some of these clips and we'll put them on our IG page, 5 Core Life. You'll be tagged in them, so you'll see some of the nuggets and the wisdom that you dropped on us today. And let's keep in touch, man. You're a good dude.
All right, Will, appreciate it, mate. And looking forward to keeping in touch with you in the future.
Awesome. All right, brother. Have a good day.
Right, see you later.
That's it for today's episode of the 5 Core Life podcast with Will Moore, founder of More Momentum. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you have not already, please make sure to subscribe and follow the podcast wherever you are listening or watching. This so that you get notified when new episodes air every week. And if you have not joined the 5 Core Life Facebook group, I encourage you to join that and see what all of the fuss is about. There's some awesome content designed to get your momentum going, including a monthly giveaway to win a complimentary coaching call with the Will Moore. The Facebook group is currently the only place to get Will's dedicated attention on your 5 core journey. If you're feeling stuck or just want someone to cheer you on, then that is the place you need to be. There's nothing like a community of people on the same journey to get you fired up, kicking butt, and taking names. So come join us.
Get moving. Gain momentum. Join the movement. Join Emmett by going to moremomentum.com to take a free life evaluator quiz on where you currently stand in each of your 5 cores.